Joining us is MS Now congressional reporter Michael Schnell, Mark McKinnon, former advisor to George W. Bush and John McCain, and Ashley Etienne, former communications director to Vice President Kamala Harris. Welcome to all of you. So, Michael, what is driving the GOP's shift here and their willingness to apparently break more with the president?
Yeah, Alex, it's been such a fascinating dynamic to watch emerge over the recent weeks because this Republican Party and specifically Republican conferences on Capitol Hill have been so linked and so alongside President Trump for years that seeing these breaks now is fascinating. And it's for a few different reasons. Take first the ballroom and the anti-weaponization fund. I think for those, Republicans just saw them as bad policy. With the $1 billion for the ballroom, or rather the $220 million for the ballroom, Republicans recognized that President Trump was very clear that no taxpayer money would go towards that project. It would be paid by private donors. And then to ask the taxpayers to foot that part of the bill, they recognized it was a discrepancy. For the anti-weaponization fund, there were a lot of concerns that some of that money could potentially go to folks who rioted the Capitol on January 6th. And for both of those issues, the economic factor played in. The fact that they would be having taxpayer dollars go to those two projects when gas prices are on the rise and Americans across the country are having problems with their wallets. Now, when you talk about this Iran war powers resolution, that one comes down to policy. We heard from some Republicans point to the fact that there are rising gas prices and other rising prices as a result of this war that has no end in sight. Also, the fact that a lot of them wanted more information and just weren't getting that from the administration. And then look at the Constitution. The War Powers Act of 1973 says that the White House, the administration, needs to come to Congress for a declaration of war or an authorization of military use within 60 or 90 days of the hostilities beginning. The administration didn't do that. So yesterday, as you mentioned, 4 Republicans joined Democrats in approving that war powers resolution. Take a listen to what 2 of those Republicans said after the vote.
I'm excited that it did pass. And people are tired of this. They're tired of $5 a gallon gas and $6 a gallon diesel and fertilizer we can't afford to put on our fields in Kentucky. So I think it sends a good message that the People's House, which represents the people, is tired of this war.
The Speaker obviously has his opinion, and, I'm taking into consideration a lot of factors, the constitutional parameters of this, the War Powers Act, the articulation of time that gives to delegate to any president.
Are you worried that Trump might come after you for your vote, Senator?
I vote my conscience for what I think is right, and I'm willing to accept it.
So again, Alex, a fascinating dynamic we're seeing develop up here, and we'll see if it continues with any other issues that may be coming down the pipe.
Before I let you go, Michael, because even in the Senate, even after Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche moved to scrap the president's so-called anti-weaponization fund, some Republicans are still demanding guarantees that that measure is completely dead. So could that rather be leverage, since the president wants Blanche confirmed now as AG?
It certainly can. And I'll tell you, we're going to see this all come to a head really beginning within the next hour. That's when we expect Senate Republicans to move forward with this reconciliation bill into what's called vote-a-rama, which is essentially allow senators to introduce as many amendments as they want on a large number of topics. We've heard already from Democrats and some Republicans that they're going to introduce amendments to remember, this is an immigration enforcement bill, to insert language into that bill preventing this anti-weaponization fund from ever seeing the light of day in the future. In fact, we've heard from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's office that is going to be the first amendment that Democrats introduce. We'll have to see if it's successful. Again, that's set to get underway. Could be as soon as a few minutes.
Okay, Michael Schnell, excellent reporting as always. Many thanks. So, Mark, is this GOP pushback, is it a moment or is it momentum?
Well, Alex, it's a lot more than just bad policy, because they voted for a lot of bad policy before. So clearly something's happening here. And I think 2 things are developing. One is that Trump has hit the height of his political power, and it's going to do nothing but diminish from here on out. He's a lame duck. He's not running for a 3rd term, which has been confirmed by his own Supreme Court justice publicly, Amy Coney Barrett. And so his political power is diminishing. So it's going nowhere but down. And Republicans smell that. They can smell they can smell the fear in Trump of all the things that are happening around him. You stack on top of that, because Trump isn't running for re-election now and can't, and he might try, but it won't happen. he realizes that that power is diminished, so he doesn't care about the politics of it anymore. All he's concerned about is his legacy. And that's why we have the arch, that's why we have the ballroom, that's why we have the slush fund. It's all about grifting for his family and his friends and trying to embellish his image, because he realizes that the politics are going out the window, so he might as well just get all he can while he can.
So, Ashley, let's take a listen to what Senator Bill Cassidy, of course, who lost his primary to a Trump-backed candidate, is saying about this anti-weaponization fund. Here it is.
Do you take the acting attorney general at his word that the fund is dead for now, or do you want to pass a bill to specifically outlaw it in the future?
I want to make sure it's not mostly dead. I want to make sure it's completely dead.
That was powerful there, completely dead. How significant is it that some Republicans are demanding guarantees that the fund is completely dead, to use his words, even as the president is raising the possibility it may not be?
I mean, it speaks to the fact that, even senators within his own party don't trust his word. But here's what I find very interesting about this. It's all of Donald, who you're seeing leading this charge right now are all the members who Donald Trump has politically ostracized. You've got Tillis, you've got Cornyn, you've got Cassidy. Tillis is, that wasn't even, I think, the biggest rebuke of the Trump administration. He said, he called it sort of amateur hour. He said people are done with amateur hour, and so they're starting to push back. So that's the dynamic I find most interesting, is those people who Trump has, add Massey to the list, who Trump has gone after now are coming back to haunt him. They're leading these efforts to really reassert congressional authority on some obvious things. Why would you give $1 billion to criminals in the face of American people barely making ends meet? You've got an unjustified war that's costing us not just resources, but that also are costing us lives and allies around the world. So that's what I find most interesting, is the people that are coming after Trump now on the Republican side are those who he ostracized and that are really calling a spade and telling the truth in the moment where, it's obvious to the American people and it's lost on Donald Trump.
Do you think Trump miscalculated, Ashley? I mean, long term, he let his personal animus, his vendetta, his sense of rage overtake any sort of political calculation by going against these people, knowing full well they could have the tone that they have right now.
Absolutely. And my only advice to them is keep going. Don't stop there. Next on the agenda is to be the fact that, which was alluded to just earlier, the fact that the president has now racked up $1 billion in profit while serving in this office, which is against the Constitution. The emoluments prevents the president from utilizing his office to build his own personal coffers and that of his family. And that's what we're seeing running rampant in the Trump administration now. So my point is, don't stop there. Keep going. There's a lot to uncover and unpack as it relates to this president's grifting and his corruption and how it's impacting the bottom line for the American people.
Is that, Mark, what it is about the president's fund that appeared to have crossed a line for some Republicans? Everything that Ashley's spelling out there?
Oh, I mean, you can't get any more corrupt than that slush fund. But, I was just thinking about Cassidy and Tillis and Cornyn and Massey. It's really kind of Revenge of the Walking Dead. I mean, these guys are on their way out, but man, they are gonna get their they're gonna get their licks in while they can. So I think it's just a testament to Trump's waning political party, because the people that he screwed in the primary are now going to screw him in the general and screw him on the way out and screw it and do everything they can to take down whatever is a priority for him right now.
Which is the president's ballroom, apparently. So, Ashley, you have the Senate Republicans, the immigration bill that shaved $1 billion in funding for the White House ballroom. Could the key for containing the president be going after his vanity projects?
I love the way you put that, his vanity projects. I mean, the president is trapped in his gilded palace, and I think that's what Republicans are sensing. But they're also, more than anything else, they have their eyes towards November. They're reading the tea leaves, where they can see, if we just go back to, 2 days ago, Tuesday in Iowa, for example, it's a state in which the president won by 13%. It's where he went to in January to kick off his midterm efforts. And now he's looking at a situation where his approval rating with independents in that particular state reflects that of what we're seeing across the country at 28% approval. And so he might be looking at a situation where we could see a sweep in Iowa from Democrats from top to bottom. And that's what I think the senators are sensing that's happening beneath the surface all around the country. That's alarming for them in November. And that seems, again, to be lost on the president because he's trapped in his little gilded, ego palace.
Same question to you, Mark. Is it the vanity projects that Donald Trump will respond more forcefully to or acquiesce to some degree because he wants them to get them through? You talked about the fact that he wants to have his legacy. That's going to be his focus. He seemed to be almost a, builder in chief, like a second job he's got going right now in addition to running the country. Is that the way to get to him and perhaps use it as leverage?
Yeah, because I think, again, he's now thinking about what's going to be left when I'm gone. He sees the horizon. He sees the sun coming down. And it's like, okay, I'm going to be leaving this town. So what's going to be left standing that will represent all my greatness when I'm gone? And that's the arch, the ballroom, the reflecting pool. All those things are all about Donald Trump. So, yeah, I think he's going to do anything and everything he can to make sure that those legacy items are in place before he goes.